thank you for joining me today. For everyone logging on and watching, I am here with Dr. Colleen Hacker today, and we are going to talk about her book, Achieving Excellence. If you are unaware of Dr. Hacker, first of all, where have you been? But just for perspective, I want all of our listeners, all of our viewers to get an idea of where you're coming from today and kind of give the whole discussion a little perspective. So I'll run through a little bit of a bio for those listening here. Dr. Hacker has served as a member of the United States coaching staff for 5 Olympic Games as a mental skills coach and performance psychology specialist. Her tenure began with the U.S. women's national soccer team in 1995, and she helped them win their first gold medal the very next year in 1996. They later won another silver medal in 2000, another gold medal in 2004 in the Games in Athens. And in addition to the U.S. women's national team, Dr. Hacker has worked with USA Hockey, as well as Major League Baseball, pro soccer, the USA swimming crew, speed skating, track and field, tennis teams. For perspective here, she earned her PhD from the University of Oregon and has studied extensively and worked in the areas of team building for high-performing teams, motor learning and human performance, performance psychology of elite athletes and corporate leaders, and sport and exercise psychology. She is a frequent speaker and consultant for many high-profile organizations, and her work has been published in numerous professional journals and books. Dr. Hacker is currently a professor of kinesiology at Pacific Lutheran University in Washington, and she joins us today, like I mentioned, to discuss her book, Achieving Excellence, and to talk about the importance of mental skills coaching in sports and other areas of performance. So did I leave anything out there that you'd like to go over?
No, we probably lost half the audience, but you shared it just like a parent would have written it and given it to you. So thank you.
Right. No, excellent job. And like I said, I did want to give everyone perspective for the discussion that we're going to have because like we talked the other day, there are a lot of people that serve as mental skills coaches, some more qualified than others maybe. And I just wanted to give perspective that you have been working around a number of different teams and corporate leaders, and you have definitely have the experience to back everything up that we're talking about today. So I guess we'll kind of start from the beginning. I'm curious, how did you get into mental skills training and performance training?
Yeah, I think the origin story in all of our lives is kind of an illustrative one. It's interesting, and mine is probably in an expected way. Sport was part of my life since I was 4 or 5 years old, and I say that sincerely, and it has never gone away. My passion and interest in sport, in peak performance and excellence, I think began at a very early age. Okay. And I quickly realized truly, probably in terms of, awareness in college, I wasn't the biggest, the tallest, the strongest, the fastest, but I found a way and I was motivated. And I didn't look at shortcomings as shortcomings. I looked at them truly as opportunities and challenges to overcome. And I thought, geez, if I was bigger, taller, stronger, faster, would I have had that same curiosity? Would I have had that same interest? And what I've learned from my own competitive career is that the head and the heart are differentiators. They are differentiators. You can have all the skill in the world. You can have the best coaching in the world. Mm-hmm. You can have all the technical acumen and the tactical expertise. But at the end of the day, I do think it's the head and heart that carries the day. So, my origin story is seeing firsthand the difference that a mindset can make in high performance.
That's very well said, and I think you probably speak for a lot of people that maybe some younger athletes even that, like you said, might not be the biggest or might not be the fastest, at least starting out. Hopefully if that's their passion, they're going to work with some sort of trainer or coach to improve that. But yeah, I think as humans, we always find a way to overcome those adversities that we face, just to try to be the best that we can. So yeah, I definitely appreciate you saying that, and like I said, very well said. Now, throughout your career, you've been part of some great organizations, like I mentioned, the USA teams, different pro teams, even on the corporate side. What stands out to you most in all of those experiences? I don't know if you can narrow that down.
What stands out most is I'm the luckiest person on planet Earth. And what stands out most is I have the best job in America. And I really feel that way. It's honestly, truly such a privilege and an honor for me to work with the best athletes and the best corporate athletes in the world in their particular craft on the biggest stage. But wait, there's more, right? It's
right.
Not just the big lights and the big events. I think what has captured my heart the most, what keeps me in awe and eternal respect of high achieving folks is the daily grind. And I hate using that term because we throw it around so much, but it's the day to day. It's the day to day. Everybody wants to be on the national team on game day. Everybody wants to be an Olympian in the Olympic Games. But what are you doing today to make a difference? And what I've seen over decades of a career is the best want to get better. The best do not rest on their laurels. The best don't feel like they have it all figured out. I don't know if you know this about me, but I'm a gold medalist. I don't know if you know this about me, but I'm a World Series champion. There's sort of a hungry humility that I think we all could learn from. They have a sense of there's more. There's more in me. There's more possible. There's more potential to develop, and they're willing to put in the work to get themselves there.
Have there been any cases, I'm sure there have, where maybe you have a high-performing athlete physically or athletically, but they don't necessarily have that, I guess, extra drive? Have you worked with any athletes like that where you've kind of used your expertise to kind of push them over the edge in that sense?
I'm smiling because every certified mental performance coach is going, have I ever? I think it's a very high percentage. Sometimes physical talent is wasted in some ways, because if they're not willing to roll up their sleeves and develop all four pillars, they're going to leave potential on the table. So what happens often, and again, I'm going to speak from an elite standpoint, is almost everybody was great in high school, and then they were great in their club team, and then they were great in college. You with me on this? So their history is success after success after success after success. But at some point, if you keep moving up the ladder, you're going to get to a spot on that totem pole where everybody's great. Everybody has that same background. And now we're going to see how you handle adversity, how you handle challenges. We joke about it. I don't think it's a joke that there's a ton of people who are physically good enough to play at an elite level, but they don't have that mental discipline, that mental agility, that ability to adjust and adapt, that ability to regain confidence when it's lost. The myriad of mental skills, qualities, characteristics, strategies, and techniques that are employed by the best are always in use. And so I think some folks, frankly, I think many folks, once they bump up against other folks who are as good as they are, they lose motivation, they lose confidence. It's not as fun anymore. They like winning, right? But not the getting better part. So
you mentioned the four pillars, and for our listeners, if people might not be familiar with those. Could you kind of go through those 4 pillars? And I know you mentioned them right off the bat in your book. I think it's actually chapter 1 because it's so important to establish those. Could you go through those 4 pillars and kind of how they all kind of mesh together to make that complete athlete or that complete, achiever?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. And there's a reason we start out with those 4 pillars. When I started in 95, 96 for the first Olympic Games, there weren't mental skills coaches working with all the athletes, right? U.S. Soccer was an early adopter on that sports science expertise. Okay. And so nobody then was talking about the 4 pillars. Right. It's fun for me now in the course of my career. It's like everybody talks about the 4 pillars like they've been, given on the tablet on high. It's a relatively recent recognition. But every sport and every corporate, every high-achieving business leader, same thing. The details are different, but if you're in a high-achieving environment, there are 4 pillars that are essential for you to address. The technical, those are the skills that make you need a certain skill set to be able to do your craft. Can you handle a spreadsheet? Can you balance the books? Can you run a business meeting? Can you dribble? Can you shoot? Can you rebound, right? It's the skills that make your job, for lack of a better way to say it, unique. Then you have tactics. That's your approach. Are we going to play player to player? Are we going to play a zone? Are we going to play a flat back 4? Are we going to be aggressive in seeking out new markets? Or are we going to try to refine the markets that we already have, switching to a business mode? Then you have the physiological. And if you're a human being on planet Earth, the physiological applies to you. And this is, from an athlete standpoint, the strength, the anaerobic power, the aerobic power, speed, quickness. But for all of us, even in the corporate world, it's the importance of sleep. It's the importance of fueling. It's the importance of rest and recovery. And then what I like to call job security, the 4th pillar is the psychological dimension. And for me, it's the separator. And those are issues like confidence, focus, refocusing, self-talk, goal setting, concentration, anxiety management, cognitive reframing, team dynamics, relationships. I mean, the list is endless. Just like you, a strength and conditioning coach, you have potentially dozens, potentially hundreds of different movements that you have in your arsenal to be able to work the deltoids, to be able to work the gastrocs, to be able to work, right? And the same thing, they're tools in the toolbox. Now, because I hope we all evolve, I added the 4 pillars plus 1. Okay. And the plus 1 is team. Yeah. None of us got here on our own. Not one of us. I know we as Americans love to have that pull yourself up by the bootstraps and, I don't need any help. It's me, me, me. Yeah. None of us have gotten here without the help of others. So that plus 1 applies to everyone.
That's an excellent. I'm actually glad that you added that plus 1 because you could probably relate this to all of your experiences that you've had working with numerous high-level teams. To your point, you have very high-level athletes that might be, they've perhaps always been the best on their specific team. Well, now they're getting on essentially an all-star team to represent the country or their pro team. But if they're not a great teammate, then it's not going to work out. So applauding there. Thank you for mentioning that because that is so crucial and probably a part that people leave out quite a bit. So
you get it. You you didn't just hear, you listened. So exactly.
Yep. Definitely. So you went through those 4 pillars plus 1. I think for the longest time, at least in my specific industry, like you mentioned, strength and conditioning, we have focused so much on all those pillars except for the psychological side. However, at least in the United States and in my kind of circles, I feel like that's gaining steam, and it has gained steam over at least the last 5-10 years, maybe. Why do you think that is? Like, have you seen anything personally? Can you point to any data on why that's becoming more popular?
Yeah, I do think it's a double-edged sword. The discipline itself has been around for more than 100 years. Philip Wrigley hired the first mental skills coach in the 1930s. Okay. So we're approaching the 100-year anniversary. So respectfully, I'd say we've been around.
Right.
And now I'm saying to the world, welcome to the party. Where have you been?
Right.
I think people are catching on. I will just share this, and I say this because I look at this as a positive story. Mm-hmm. But when I was brought on to the U.S. women's national team, Tony DeCicco, the phenomenal national team head coach, Olympic gold medal coach, World Cup champion coach, he approached his national governing body and said, I want to bring in a mental skills coach as we prepare for the Olympic Games. And U.S. Soccer said, yeah, we're not funding that. But the head coach recognized a need. Mm-hmm. And so he then lobbied private businesses. He lobbied coaches to help with the funding. And he lobbied the U.S., what is now the USOPC. And that's actually what funded it. So sometimes you need a visionary. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you need an advocate. And so to your point, what do I think's changed? I think we have more of that now, where Tony was early to the party. Tony understood a gap in knowledge and ability and wanted to fill that. And so what you're seeing now is coaches and organizations understanding the importance of mental skills training in the overall quest for excellence. Briefly, I do want to say what I'm concerned about now is that we seem to be conflating mental health professionals with mental skills specialists. Okay. And they're related, but they're distinct. Sometimes that expertise is housed in two different human beings, and sometimes it's housed in one. And I would just say respectfully, I know how challenging it is for me to try to maintain expertise as a mental skills coach. It requires an inordinate amount of reading, continuing education. So the people who feel like they can be excellent in clinical and excellent in the mental skills range, I just tip my hat to them, because I don't think I'm capable of truly dual expertise. One has to win out, in my experience, in my view. So they're related but distinct. What we're hearing a lot now about mental health, and I worry that we're, as I said, conflating the two. They're related but distinct.
Okay. All that's very interesting, and I guess speaks to this field on the importance of it and how truly specialized it can be in not crossing the line, because I completely agree. They are two separate fields, even though they are a little related. Also, to your point, I think that's interesting that your coach kind of started almost a grassroots movement, because he realized the importance of it, even though maybe those in charge at the time, at least, didn't realize the importance. So I think, do you think that might be a case too? And I know you spoke a little bit to, there are maybe certain people in different groups that are seeing the importance and kind of pushing this field forward a little bit more. Yeah,
I really appreciate that question. I want to even move beyond mental skills, although I should probably put that in the center of the bullseye.
Right.
But, I'm asked that a lot. What's the difference of working with a high school athlete than a college athlete than an Olympic or a pro athlete? And they're differences, and they're not the differences that you might expect. Maybe we'll circle back to that.
Right.
But I think what I have truly found is the greats. And when I say the greats, I mean the earned greats, not the self-appointed greats, not the public's view of greatness. The true high achievers, they are open, they are lifelong learners, they don't feel like they know it all, and they're not intimidated by excellence. They welcome excellence. Yeah. And I think I think for some folks, they view that they don't know it all as a sign of weakness or something that's lacking in them. And Tony and others, that was a strength. I think throughout our entire relationship together, he'd call on the phone. He goes, "What do I need to know, Doc? Colleen, tell me something new." Like, he was just hungry. And I've said forever, you know, when you're green, you're growing. When you're ripe, you're rotting. Comparing it to fruit, right? And the high achievers are always green and growing. And that's a distinguishing factor.
All right. Moving into, so you've been hired out as I guess a staff member or maybe a consultant on a number of different levels. If you are going into a brand new team that you have never met before, or maybe it's a corporation that you're hired on to work with, I guess, what are some of the most important aspects that you would go in on initially? Like, what are some of the key points that you would try to hit on initially? Or is that more of a consultation process where you need to figure out exactly what's wrong?
It is, smart guy. You knew where that was going.
Yeah.
It really, you know, excellence, the pursuit of excellence at its best is nuanced, it's individualized, it's not cookie cutter. I sort of smile because everybody knows that you're supposed to not say that it's cookie cutter. We know that we're supposed to say that it's individualized, but what I see is handouts where we just go on the keyboard and we erase basketball and we put in lacrosse. And we erase, do you understand what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like,
Absolutely.
they tell you it's not cookie cutter, but if you really listen and watch and boots on the ground, it's cookie cutter. It's the same thing.
Right.
What I would say to you is, I don't know what I'm going to do with a corporation. How on earth could I know what I'm going to do in advance without speaking in depth with the stakeholders? I don't go into a team and say, and now we're going to work on imagery. I don't go in with an individual and say, now we're going to work on self-confidence. It's about engaging with the high performer. It's about careful listening skills. It's about listening to both the content, but also the meaning behind what they're saying. It's the ability to diagnose and address. And I don't say diagnose in a clinical way, but to recognize the gap between where they are and where they could be, the gap between where they are and where they want to be. And I maintain that every corporation, every athlete, and every team has a performance gap. It's simply the gap between where you are now and what's possible for you. Look, everybody's not going to be a gold medalist. Everybody's not going to be a Super Bowl champion. Notice I didn't say winning the conference or being a Division I champion. But the goal is to narrow the gap every day between where I am and where I could be. You will always have one. But some people's gap is very big, in my opinion, because they aren't scientifically and consistently addressing all four pillars. If you are not addressing all four pillars, you are leaving part of your potential on the table.
Right.
And I'm not willing to do that. The high achievers that I work with aren't willing to do that. The first time I met with the national team, I simply said to them, if I can make a 3 to 5% difference, a 3 to 5% difference, are you interested? Every hand in the room went up, because that is the margin of victory. It is the secret of the slight edge.
Definitely. And I guess I can relate that back to more of my field. We talked about strength training a little bit. If an athlete comes in and they're not an efficient mover, I'm not going to immediately throw them on a trap bar and have them start deadlifting tons of weight. I want to get them moving a little better first. And I guess to your point, it's kind of meeting the people where they're at and then helping them grow from there. Is that kind of the approach that you take then?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. 100%. And I just would say, if someone comes in and they're telling you what they're going to do, right, or talking to you, I would be concerned. I would be concerned. And And I just think it's so important to meet the client where the client is, not where you are. Meet the client where the client is. Meet the team where the team is, right? Meet the corporation where the corporation is.
Awesome. So working at different levels, and I know you are, I don't know if there's a difference for you between, I mean, Olympic level and pro. I mean, they're all extremely high level. But have you noticed any differences in their steps along the way as far as their mental skills? And maybe what specific things, are there specific things that you've had to work with at different levels? Yeah,
that's the $1 million question, isn't it? Like, is there a difference? What is the difference? Can I develop that difference? And I have. Let me just use an example. I don't know how many parents we have listening. I don't know how many coaches that are working with teenagers are listening. But if you have a parent at home, you know this universal expression. Here it is. And you get that expression when you say to your child, or you say to the athlete, did you carry the garbage? Right? Is your room clean? And that's the universal expression that says, yes, I know I was supposed to do it, but I didn't do it. I know, but I didn't. Right. That is the essential difference. It's not knowing what to do. We all know what to do. Yep. You can't be an adult right now in this, you know this, we live in a hypokinetic culture. Right. You can't be an adult right now who doesn't know the kinds of foods they should be eating more of, how much physical activity they should be getting. I'll just stick in that pillar. And then you say, okay, how many of you do that week after week, month after, and all the heads go down. So there's the adult equivalent of, I know. So I'm going to say again, it's not knowing what to do. And I'm amazed at how people give themselves credit as though high achieving is a multiple choice test. You don't get to buzz in with the answer. Oh, yeah, I know I should be doing. That's the difference. High achievers don't just know what to do, they do it. And I say to people, are you going to find a way or are you going to find an excuse? And you'd be amazed what the percentages are on those two teams. Right. Are you going to find a way or are you going to find an excuse? Right? And so high achievers find a way to do what they need to do to move one step closer. Inch by inch is a cinch, yard by yard is hard. They move one step closer to what their ultimate goal is.
Right. And I know you mentioned this in the book quite a bit, but is there kind of have you seen hurdles or is there a learning curve? Because we can practice sports all day. We can go to business leadership conferences. We can, strength train all day. And we know that we have to work at those things to get better. But has there been a little bit of resistance or maybe people coming along a little more slowly to the idea that you can train this side of your this particular pillar in mental skills and you can get better on that?
Yeah, 100%. I actually very often compare mental skills training to strength training. Okay. Because I think they're very parallel. So I'm going to say some things and I have a feeling you're going to jump in. Are we all equally strong? What's your answer? Are we all equally strong?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. So are we all equally competitive, equally confident, equally able? Nope. No. But all of us can get stronger. Correct. All of us can get, and so when you look at it as a journey, as a development, as an improvement, it changes it. So yes, different people, would shake out differently, and those are some of the impediments. I think some coaches and some athletes think you either have it or you don't. Oh, look at that athlete. They're so confident. And I'm like, what planet are you on? They have to work at that. Confidence is a road that's always under construction. They're not all, I'd love to be so-and-so. He's never nervous. Like, of course he's nervous.
Right.
Let me show you the video. Let me tell you the story with permission. Let me give you an example. Those folks are just like that 12-year-old and 14-year-old, and they didn't get a free pass. So I think one of the impediments is people think you either have it or you don't. Untrue. There are skills that can be developed. I think the other impediment is that if you're good enough and you're motivated enough, that you will find a way. And what I want to say to you is, would you turn a neophyte lifter into the gym and say, just pull some things down, push some things, right? You would teach them how to do it safely, properly, according to scientific principles. The same with mental skills training. They are skills. They improve with practice and systematic training. You have to be consistent with it. And what's an issue now and what's an issue later can change in the course of a season, in the course of a career, in the course of a week. For an athlete, Sunday to Sunday is a lifetime.
Right.
It's a lifetime because they've had so many hours of practice, because they've had so many games. And so they're really aware. They're really aware of how performance fluctuates from time to time. And that's frustrating to them. And what we try to look at when I'm working with folks is, let's examine the psychological, the emotional components that may be contributing to that better, worse performance.
Okay. And it directly related to everything you just said, one of the things that I really like about this book, Achieving Excellence, is as you're going through it, reading through it, you have different sections of chalk talk and, for personal reflection, so that you can actually try to put those, aspects that you're learning about in the book, you can put those to work and kind of almost grade yourself as you're going through it. And maybe coaches could use that too if they're working with, their athletes in a respect. Can you elaborate a little more on maybe the importance of including those worksheets in the book and how key that is to this book moving forward?
I am so grateful. You didn't just show up and go, okay, what's the book we're doing now? Like, you looked, you studied, and I'm really proud of what we did. My colleague and I, Dr. Mallory Mann, also at Pacific Lutheran University, everything in that book was intentional. The order, the elements. And I want to say, because this is important to both of us, it is scientifically grounded, it is evidence-based, but it's not textbooky. Right. We didn't want it to be textbooky. We wanted it to be applicable, immediately useful. We wanted the reader, whether it's the corporate reader or the parent reader or the athlete or coach reader, to be able to find themselves immediately on those pages. Okay. So you just nailed it. So we talk about the topics, we explain it so that you know what you're listening for or looking for in very accessible, practical language that absolutely anybody would understand. Anybody. And what I'm thrilled about is I'm hearing from more and more and more of my coaching friends who bought a copy and now they're getting it for the entire team. And so each week they do a different chapter. That's another element, I think, that makes the book distinct. Is it doesn't require the reader to go in order. So you could look at the confidence chapter. You could look at the concentration chapter. You could look at the motivation chapter. You could look at how to handle adversity and mistakes. You could look at how to develop and enhance mental toughness. So it doesn't have to be read in order. Okay. And so we explain it, then we have sort of bullet points like, here's the takeaway, right? We all live busy lives. Yeah, maybe I read it, but maybe I didn't. Okay, here's the bullet points. Now, then we say, make it your own. And every single chapter provides an actual template that coaches could use with their teams, individual athletes could use for themselves, right? Or even individual coaches could use. And then we say, make it your own. And every single chapter provides an actual template that coaches could use with their teams, individual athletes could use for themselves, right? Or even individual athletes could use for themselves,
Yeah.
corporate clients could faithfully follow, and they make it their own. And it's woven with authentic stories, what I like to think of as ripped from the headlines. You're going to read about some of the gold medal teams that I've been able to work with, that I'm ethically allowed to talk about. I use examples in that book from, corporate clients, from the legal profession, basketball, baseball, swimming, lacrosse. We intentionally tried to be inclusive so that the reader could find themselves in the pages of that book.
Excellent. Yeah, very well said. And I mean, that's one of the reasons, like you realize once I made that comment, that I'm happy that I got a copy of the book, and why I'm also going to recommend it to other coaches that I know, and maybe even some of the athletes that I train. It really is an excellent book for, like you said, for athletes, for coaches, for corporate leaders, for people who might want to work their way up into more of a leadership role, just to kind of gain that confidence and get in that mindset that you truly can accomplish a lot of things in your life. Out of respect for your time, I'm going to ask you one more question. This could be more of a fun question, or more of a fun response maybe. You have experienced a lot of different teams and, just different areas that you've worked in your career. Do you have, and you mentioned you need permission to share stories sometimes, but do you have a story of someone that you have encountered in your career that maybe had a setback, or maybe they lack some of that confidence that they need, and they really use a lot of these components and principles to kind of push themselves forward?
There's many. And no, respectfully, I'm not going to use names, but what I will tell you is, in my career, I think the greatest moments, the most cherished moments in my career, is to see individuals, corporate athletes, sport athletes, recognize that there's more in them, and seek out expertise and excellence, and then watch them roll up their sleeves and go to work. That chasm between I want and I'm willing to do the work is the separator in the marketplace. Listen, there's no company that has their annual meeting and says, let's be number 5. Let's be number 5, right? Nobody says, let's finish 4th. Let's finish 4th, right? Everyone essentially wants that brass ring, metaphoric brass ring. The separator is, what are you willing to do? How frequently, how consistently to bring it about? I look at the little things that yield the big results in the amazing athletes with whom I have been privileged to work. And I have more respect, more appreciation for them every year that goes by, because I also see the alternative.
Yeah.
So for so many people that I've been able to work with that are household names, quite frankly, I almost want to say to people, however great you think they are, you don't know the half of it. They're 10 times greater than that, right? Because I see them at 3 in the morning, and I see them at 5 in the morning, and I see them Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, in January, February. You see, like I'm privileged to look behind the curtain, and I am more in awe, more impressed, more aware of their willingness to seek excellence. It's a beautiful thing.
It really is. Lots of great content in our discussion here today. Excellent information in the book right here, Achieving Excellence. I really encourage everyone to go pick up a copy, go find a copy to read. You will get a lot out of it. You'll find tools that will help push you forward in your own career, whether you're an athlete, a coach, working in a corporate setting. Really is a ton of relatable information here. So thank you for your time. I will give you one last word if you have anything to add, if you have any way that people might be able to get a hold of you if they have questions, or just to keep up with all the wonderful work that you're doing.
No, I appreciate that. And you know, shout out to Human Kinetics, the leading publisher in the field of kinesiology, in my view, and, you know, around the world. It has a world imprint. So props to Human Kinetics. And you can get the book, you know, on Amazon or through HK, and obviously reach me at university contact, and I'm fairly active on Twitter as well. But you know, people that want to find me. That's how I would end it.
They will. All right. Awesome. Again, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. I know that you gave a ton of information that everyone can pull something from. So I sincerely thank you for your time, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.
Thank you. You as well.